You ever see a moment so powerful, so raw, that it freezes the entire basketball world in its tracks? That's exactly what happened when Michael Jordan, yes, the Michael Jordan, stepped forward and broke his legendary silence. Normally distant from the spotlight of women's basketball, Jordan took the mic and delivered a speech that was anything but scripted. In a world saturated with press releases and media coaching, what he said felt like gospel. This wasn't just a speech, it was a passing of the torch, and the world was watching. He didn't walk out with flash or flare. He stepped up with weight, the kind that only a man who redefined the sport can carry. And then, with just a few measured words, he lit the stage on fire. Caitlin Clark and Sophie Cunningham weren't just acknowledged, they were immortalized. The greatest to ever do it had spoken, and what he said would echo across every court in the country. Caitlin Clark stood stunned. Sophie Cunningham looked like she had just seen a ghost. Because when a man like Jordan, who rarely says anything at all, goes out his way to name you, it's not just a compliment, it's a coronation. These weren't hollow words meant to trend. This was legacy recognizing legacy in the making. What Jordan did in that moment shattered decades of silence around the WNBA. He didn't just validate Clark and Cunningham. He challenged the world to see them as he does. Leaders, warriors, future Hall of Famers in real time. And when he finished, the silence in the room said more than applause ever could. He had changed the conversation forever. While the media fixated on Caitlin Clark's record-breaking rookie season, shattering attendance highs and lighting up the ratings like Times Square, Jordan saw something deeper. He didn't praise her numbers. He didn't bring up the awards or the media frenzy. Instead, he leaned into what separates good from transcendent. She owns the moment, he said, and everyone knew exactly what he meant. Because Clark isn't the kind of player who grows into greatness. She arrives already ablaze. Jordan compared her to a fire that doesn't need ignition. And that's the thing about Caitlin. She doesn't wait for the spotlight to find her. She walks into the arena like it was built for her. And in that moment, Jordan didn't see a rising star. He saw a mirror. Jordan's words weren't the first to praise her, but they were the loudest because they came without a script, without PR polish. He didn't say Clark was the next big thing in women's basketball. He said she was a big thing in basketball. Period. Full stop. And just like that, the lines that had long divided the men's and women's games began to blur. He redefined how we talk about women in sports. Jordan didn't place Caitlin Clark in a box. He threw away the box altogether. The greatest basketball player alive said this woman is a moment, and a moment listens when he speaks. It wasn't just approval, it was an awakening. And then, just when you thought the spotlight would stay on Clark, Jordan pivoted, and the room held its breath. Because what came next was even more unexpected. He brought up Sophie Cunningham, not as an afterthought, not as a hard worker or great role player, but as a force, raw, unfiltered, and unrelenting. He called her a storm in sneakers. And that wasn't poetry. That was fact. While Caitlin might be the explosion that lights up the sky, Sophie is the thunder that shakes the ground. Jordan knew exactly what he was doing when he mentioned her name in the same breath as Clark's. Sophie Cunningham has never chased cameras. She's never begged for headlines. What she does is show up, bleed for every possession, and make damn sure her presence is felt. Even if it doesn't make the highlight reel, she throws herself into plays like she's fighting ghosts. She plays angry, focused, and personal. And Jordan noticed, because he built his empire not just on talent, but on turning competition into an obsession. That's why his recognition of Sophie wasn't just a nod, it was a torch. Cunningham wasn't being seen for her stats. She was being seen for her soul. When legends speak, the world listens. And Michael Jordan wasn't the only one to raise his voice. Larry Bird, the mythic ghost of Indiana hardwood, stepped out his own quiet and did something unthinkable. He publicly praised Clark, not just for her flash, but for her fire. He compared her to his own days at Indiana State. That wasn't nostalgia. That was reverence. Bird said he found himself watching more Iowa games and NBA matchups. Let that sink in. He didn't just respect her skill. He saw himself in her. Precision, vision, grit. That's not a compliment from Bird. That's an anointing. Then came Shaquille O'Neal, the Diesel himself, known for championing Angel Reese. Shaq made a stunning confession mid-broadcast. "I'm not Shaq right now," he said. "I'm a fan." That moment shifted the atmosphere on live television. It was raw. It was real. Shaq admitted he didn't believe at first. But what he saw in Clark shattered all doubt. Her passes weren't just sharp, they were surgical. Her leadership wasn't just loud, it was magnetic. And when Shaq, one of the most dominant centers in NBA history, says you won him over, it's not admiration. It's a shift in gravitational pull. The buzz around Caitlin Clark is deafening, but Sophie Cunningham is a quiet engine behind it. While Clark shines under the lights, Sophie bleeds in the shadows. But make no mistake, her impact is seismic. One leads with flair, the other with fists, and basketball is better for both. What unites them isn't style, it's substance. Clark with her logo threes, Cunningham with her floor burns. Together, they form a balance the WNBA has never seen before. Tyrese Halliburton, the Pacers' rising star, sees it too. He shows up to Clark's games not as a spectator, but as an equal. Halliburton understands pressure. He knows what it means to carry a city's hopes on his back. So when he speaks of Clark, he doesn't gush. He nods like one soldier to another. 2 point guards, 2 leaders. No theatrics, just respect. But respect doesn't always come easy. When the 2024 Olympic roster was announced, Caitlin Clark's name was nowhere to be found. The silence was louder than any press conference. The outrage poured in, but Clark, she didn't say a word. She said everything with her grind. She hit the gym. She trained. She sharpened every tool in her arsenal. While others campaigned, she calculated. And in that silence, she gained something no global stage could offer. Freedom to evolve away from the noise. Dwight Howard called it what was a challenge, and she accepted it without flinching. Meanwhile, legends like Jeff Teague and Rick Barry slammed the WNBA for missing the moment. She's not just a player, Teague said. She's a movement. And yet, they left her behind. Rick Barry, no stranger blood on the hardwood, called her treatment personal, a target on her back. Cheap shots disguised as defense. But Caitlin didn't crack. She didn't cry. She delivered. And when the moment demanded a defender, Sophie was already moving. In a brutal June matchup, Clark took a foul that reeked of intent. Cameras caught Cunningham storming across the court like a bullet. No hesitation, no permission, just instinct. She didn't just defend a teammate, she defended a movement. That wasn't about basketball. That was about culture, about drawing a line, about saying, not on my watch. Sophie doesn't speak in slogans. She speaks in actions. When Indiana stumbled, she stood tall, called out her team, called out herself, and then she delivered. 16 points, 10 rebounds, and a warning to anyone who underestimated her. In a league chasing headlines, Sophie brings heat. She's the soul of Indiana, the one who dives for loose balls like they owe her money. She doesn't just show up, she shows out. And now, legends are starting to realize she's not riding Clark's wave, she's co-building it. What Caitlin does for visibility, Sophie does for accountability. Together, they aren't just making plays, they're making history. But the true power of their partnership is what it could mean beyond the scoreboard. Cunningham knows the grind, the overseas contracts, the low salaries, the silence. And Clark, she has the platform to flip the script. Because flipping the script doesn't just mean changing the playbook, it means changing the power structure. And when the power shifts, the pushback always comes fast. Caitlin Clark may be the face of the WNBA's future, but behind the smiles and endorsements, there's a storm of resentment swelling. Not every veteran is clapping. Not every coach is thrilled. In private locker rooms and behind closed doors, whispers have turned into full-blown conversations. Is the league really ready to build around Clark? And what does that mean for everyone else? For those who paid their dues in obscurity, who grinded overseas, who clawed their way to relevance without TV deals and shoe contracts, Clark is both inspiration and irritation. The new face of a league they feel never fully embrace them. And that's where Sophie Cunningham becomes crucial. She's walked that road, felt the sting of being overlooked. She knows exactly what it means to give everything to the game and still feel invisible. And she's using that fuel not to tear Clark down, but to build a bridge. Because Sophie understands what Caitlin represents. And more importantly, she understands what Caitlin doesn't. She's seen players burn out from spotlight pressure. She's seen how quick the media builds up heroes just to crush them. Cunningham's presence is more than protection. It's insurance against implosion. But not everyone sees it that way. Inside league offices, executives are scrambling to manage the narrative. The explosion of Caitlin Clark has thrown years of branding into chaos. Old marketing campaigns suddenly feel outdated. The league is being dragged into mainstream, but it's not on their terms. Sponsors want Caitlin. Networks want Caitlin. Merchandisers want Caitlin. And the players who spent their careers being ignored, they're starting to ask, what about us? The answer? It's uncomfortable. Because while Clark has brought the eyes, she's also exposed cracks. Cracks in pay equity. Cracks in representation. Cracks in media coverage. And those cracks are widening by the day. Cunningham is trying to patch those cracks from the inside, quietly working with the Players Association, whispering truths in the ears of rookies too afraid to speak, making calls that no camera sees. She's not doing it for fame. She's doing it because she knows the cost of silence. Meanwhile, Caitlin is learning the ropes in real time. Her meteoric rise didn't come with a handbook. One day she's signing autographs. The next she's being labeled entitled. One bad game becomes national news. One post-game quote becomes fuel for haters. And the league? They're walking a tightrope. They want the clicks, the ratings, the money, but they're terrified of alienating the veterans. It's a house of cards built on fragile egos and decades of systemic oversight. And Clark's success is the wind threatening to blow it all down. Inside boardrooms, names like Diana Taurasi and Cheryl Reeve still carry enormous weight. Their discomfort with Clark isn't just jealousy. It's about control. For years, they set the tone. Now, they're watching a rookie rewrite the rules. And Sophie, she sees it all. She sees the tension, the forced smiles, the fake hugs, and she knows exactly what's coming if they don't get ahead of it. Division, collapse, resentment that eats the league from the inside out. So she leans in, harder, more vocal, more visible, more defiant. Because if Caitlin is the lightning, Sophie is the grounding wire. And the brands? Oh, they've picked their sides. Nike is all in on Clark. Adidas is scouting the next anti-Clark voice. Puma, they're throwing quiet support behind the old guard, hoping to scoop up those feeling left behind. It's not just a player war, it's a brand war. Agents are fanning the flames. Leaks to the press, passive-aggressive interviews, carefully crafted tweets, all designed to push a narrative, one that either builds Clark into a goddess or tears her down before she ever gets a crown. And Clark? She stays silent. But silence doesn't mean ignorance. She's watching, she's learning, and she's making moves that no one sees coming. Because Clark's true power isn't in her shot, it's in her influence. She's not just an athlete. She's a cultural disruptor. And every time she steps on the court, the league gets a little more uncomfortable, a little more exposed. Sophie knows what comes next. She knows the playbook. First they elevate you, then they isolate you, and finally they try to erase you. But this time, not on her watch. She's rallying allies, young stars who see past the noise. Role players are tired of being ignored. International vets who've long been underpaid. A coalition is forming, and its message is clear: evolve or die. Meanwhile, Clark is opening doors once bolted shut. She's having meetings with players before she never could, sitting with execs, walking into sponsorship summits, building relationships with networks, not just for herself, but potentially for every woman who follows. Still, the storm brews, the old guard watches, some with pride, others with spite, and everyone is waiting for the flashpoint. Because eventually, Clark will be tested in a way the cameras won't catch. An off-court scandal, a locker room betrayal, a league fine, something that shakes the foundation. And that's when we'll see who really stands with her. Cunningham will, that much is certain. Because she's not just protecting Caitlin, she's protecting progress, protecting the league from itself, and protecting a future that's bigger than any one player. Together, they're forcing a choice between fear and future, between comfort and courage, between the past and what comes next. And the WNBA, it's running out of time to decide. Their union isn't just a team-up, it's a seismic shift. Together, they represent everything the league needs: youth, edge, wisdom, and fire. They're not just playing to win, they're playing to transform. Every game is a message, Every win is a statement. And now, the league is listening because they have no choice. Caitlin is selling out arenas. Sophie is rallying in the locker rooms. The WNBA isn't just evolving, it's erupting. And the epicenter? Indiana. But behind the highlights, there's fire. And not everyone welcomes the heat. Clark's arrival didn't follow the rules. She didn't climb, she exploded. And that explosion unsettled the gatekeeper. Michael Jordan didn't call it ambition. He called it fire. The kind that scares people. Because change doesn't come quietly. Clark is shifting the tectonic plates of a league that's been begging for a spark. And that spark? It's now a wildfire. But wildfires don't make friends. They make enemies. Some players shrug at her success. Others target her with elbows and eye rolls. And yet, she keeps playing like it's personal. Because it is. And Cunningham? She sees all of it, and she doesn't blink. Sophie has been elbowed in empty gyms. She's heard the whispers, seen the envy. But now, she's standing in the middle of Caitlin's storm. Not as a bystander, but as a bodyguard. Because she knows what happens when jealousy festers. And she's not letting this moment slip into chaos. Magic Johnson said it best. Clark's arrival is a bird magic moment, a seismic shift that redefines everything. Sponsors are calling, cameras are rolling, and still, Caitlin plays like it's Iowa all over again. Focused, ferocious, fearless. Steph Curry added his voice, not for her range, but her control. She commanded the floor, he said, and from a man who redefined basketball itself. That's not flattery, that's a prophecy. The fuse has been lit. Clark ignites. Sophie steadies. One is the revolution. The other is the spine. Together, they aren't just rewriting history. They're writing the future. And if the league's not ready, it's already too late.